Welcome to RedV TV, supported by Chapel House Cars for the 2026 season. And with 19 days to go, Kevin, it can only mean one thing.
It's our number 19. It's Iggy Paasi.
Agnatius Paasi then, Kevin. Um, Given a new deal at the club, he was much maligned in 2025. Um, I was genuinely shocked when he got given a new contract. I fully expected him before the start of the season to be moved on to somewhere like York or Bradford, somebody who was desperate for a prop. It may still happen, but at this moment in time, he is still part of the Saints squad. Came on yesterday in the friendly against Castleford from the interchange. Obviously, that's where you come from if you come off the bench. I think he's going to struggle for game time massively this season. And I think it was quite apparent that for Iggy to get fit, a bit like others we've had, other players in the past, the likes of Connie Harrell, Iggy needs to be playing to maintain fitness.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned that numerous times. There's no point necessarily keep on raking over all coals when it comes to his contract and the decision to give him one, because we both thought that it should have been the thanks for your service. We are going to move on. Um, but yeah, I think with Iggy, he needs a big start to the season, as you say, because he needs to be involved. For me, giving him a deal, and people who have commented on social media and the likes and said, well, he'll play a couple of games. I don't think that works for Iggy. I think he needs to be continually involved, because otherwise you kind of lose that fitness. And this is where the likes of the lads who can play in the middle, um, as long as they are obviously fit and well, there's a lot of numbers there now who can do that. Who you think, yeah, they're going to be in the pecking order ahead of Iggy, because even you look at the likes of Jake Wingfield and even Shane Wright, who can prop if need be. Um, you think they're going to give you more minutes and more options than Iggy will. I think Iggy's big plus is the fact that he's got an offloading game, but it's no point having an offloading game if he can only give us the minutes that we were getting out of him last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the squad that we've got and the expansive game that we're going to play, being able to just give you 10 minutes off the bench without much impact, if based on last season is to be there, I don't think you're going to see it. What I will say for Iggy is, rightly or wrongly, he was available for 27 games last season at least before he obviously,
Yeah,
and probably the more where he missed out. So he was there every week. He kept himself injury free throughout the year, which
yeah,
is a plus. And
yeah.
might be well why we contributed and give him a new contract. What I will say is, after watching him yesterday, it was like you see, after seeing David Clemmer on the field and come off to be replaced by Iggy Paasi, there was night and day difference in terms
Was
of
it?
like physique, size, power, the way we were running it in. Iggy's Iggy's advantage would be his offloading game if he can
Yeah,
find a way to be utilised for that. I just worry that I don't see him making the 17 week in, week out. I fully expect Noah Stevens, when fit, I know we missed out yesterday through injury, to be above Iggy Paasi in the playing order. And if he isn't, then Noah needs to be worried.
yeah,
Because if he can't, at
yeah,
this stage of his career, if Noah can't force himself in the squad ahead of Iggy Paasi, he probably needs to consider his long-term future at the club. So that's it.
yeah.
That's Noah's job. He's got to get himself a Iggy Paasi, and essentially probably needs to be start competing with the likes of George Delaney.
Well, he needs to be competing with the likes of Alex Walmsley,
Yeah,
because Alex Walmsley's the elder statesman, the one who's not going to be about for like the next, well, until the end of. I wouldn't expect Alex Walmsley to still be around when Noah's current contract ends. I wouldn't expect that, because that's
I,
another 3 years, isn't it?
yeah. I know we'll get to it later in the previews, but obviously Clement and Lee started Matty Lee started yesterday. That could be well be our starting props moving forward.
Oh yeah,
And you'd potentially be using Alex Walmsley in the 15, 20 minute stint off the bench for impact, which is where Iggy previously filled. Iggy could well find himself in the Kyle Amor final season position,
Yeah.
where he's good to have on the training field, he's professional and works hard, but ultimately doesn't get much game time and many appearances.
Well, that's it, because you mentioned a little bit earlier about his availability, which we've said previously. One of the best abilities is availability, but you've got to be fit enough to make an impact as well, because otherwise you are going to be getting us putting probably square pegs, oval pegs into round holes, I'll say, where you put making forwards do a props job because you can't necessarily rely on someone to do the minutes that you need. And as you say rightly, with the likes of Noah, he needs to push past him. He should be able to, um, but that's down to him. And obviously, we mentioned that in Noah's profile. With Iggy, if he's struggling, I expect to see him potentially against Workington in the cup, and then it will be a case of when we desperately, desperately need him because we're down on numbers. I'd love him to get. I said it about 3 or 4 times now. I want to see these players do well in a Saints shirt. Um, for me, this feels very, very much like one season too long.
Yeah, I only want to see Iggy Paasi play this year, essentially, if we are absolutely resting everyone a week before Wembley. If Iggy
Yeah,
Paasi is getting minutes for us this season, it means we're having an injury crisis, I feel.
yeah,
And I don't want to sound harsh
yeah,
on that, but I think we said it about Connie Harrell before the start of last season. And
yeah,
unfortunately, we were proved 100% correct.
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely right. And as I say, I think this is going to go exactly the same way. Um, I know you need the characters in the dressing room as well. You need them big characters, but we're in a salary cap sport. It doesn't just happen that you've got all the wealth and riches just to have a squad that you can afford to have someone round. I'm not saying Iggy's just there for vibes, but you can't afford to do that because it costs you in the long run. So whoever's making them decisions at the club needs to make sure they are being absolutely ruthless when it comes to it, and not holding on to players just out of complete blind loyalty. Yeah, you might like people have been given we mentioned this probably as we go on. People may have been given contracts that have been a little bit too long. That's not their fault. That's the club getting a risk wrong. But this, when it's a 1 year deal and a 1 year deal and a 1 year deal, you can probably just make that call a lot earlier and say, this isn't the right thing for us to do. Let's go out in the open market and let's see who's about there that we can either bring in for a year, bring in for 2 years, or you're making sure that your young lads are getting the time that they need.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing Paul Rowley has shown already by making an early decision on Leon Cowan. He doesn't have the need to have loyalties because he's new to the club. He hasn't got these long established relationships. So hopefully he's more than willing and prepared to make the right decision that is best for the club.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will be back tomorrow for our next player preview. Catch you soon.